After a historic collapse of the federal NDP, the party is looking to rebuild itself under new leadership.
I expect our colleagues will meet in the next few days. We'll have to pick an interim leader, and then we'll have to begin the process of scheduling and organizing a leadership contest.
That was BC NDP MP-elect Don Davies. He says his party plans to fight for official status once the House returns. But with only 7 MPs elected, the NDP is 5 short of meeting the threshold, and a new leader has yet to be chosen. Lots of work to do. So for more on how the party plans to rebuild, I'm joined by Kathleen Monk, principal owner of Monk & Associates and former director of communications to Jack Layton. Good morning. Nice to see you again so many times in one week.
Good morning. I hope you've had more sleep than I have.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, I think we're in the same boat there. Listen, when the House returns at the end of May, the NDP does not have official party status. So I think people are curious, what does that look like for sitting NDP MPs?
Yeah, a lot less resources, both financial and in terms of staff. So the party is going to need to do a total rebuild. But, you know, not all is lost. Today, the NDP caucus is going to meet. So those 7 MPs that were elected on election night will come and together and talk about the future of the party and their strategy kind of going forward.
You know, we just ran that clip from MP-elect Don Davies telling CTV's Vashi Kapelos that the number of seats required for official party status is, quote, arbitrary. So in order to regain status, all of the parties in the House, is my understanding, would need to vote on changing that number. But what would the incentive be from the parties to give the NDP official party status with less than 12? In particular, I'm talking about the Conservatives and the Bloc.
Yeah, well, first of all, I think the negotiations can't even start to happen until the caucus and really the federal executive of the NDP choose an interim leader. So that's the first process. We have to find out who will be leading the party. Lots of good candidates there out of those 7 MPs, and I do think that they'll choose somebody within caucus. So people like Don Davies, you just saw, Jenny Kwan, Alexandra Boularice, Heather McPherson, they could all possibly rise to the top to be the interim leader. But the negotiations around party status and getting the resources and staff complement that come with that are going to take a lot of goodwill on behalf of the Liberals, Conservatives, and even the Bloc to vote to actually give New Democrats that status. But I think there's actually lots of motivation for them to do so, to have New Democrat voices on committees, to have that voice in the Commons. I think there's really motivation both from the Liberals and the Conservatives to have us there. So that goodwill, you know, remains to be seen. But the number is arbitrary, but it does come with supports that New Democrats need at this moment.
Well, it's arbitrary, meaning that, you know, they picked a number, but it is the number that they need to have to hold official party status. So I see you nodding and shaking at the same time.
Yeah, no, you're right. It is the number that's picked, but of course that number differs across in our provincial houses across the country, sometimes granted as low as 2 members of the provincial houses. New Democrats themselves have actually, you know, been generous, whether that's in British Columbia in the past and granting party status to the smaller parties there. And that the protocol really has been abandoned in other places like Ontario, where you can actually, or even in Alberta, where the PCs granted New Democrats, when they only had 4 MLAs in the provincial legislature, to have party status. Right. So there's a need for an oppositional voice, and I think that the other parties will come to the reason that it's important to do that for New Democrats.
Well, that's what I want to ask you about next. You know what, post-election, and you're talking to people, how do you feel about the results and whatever else? One thing that comes up a lot is people like this idea that we are not a 2-party country. And one of the things they believe that separates us from our neighbors to the south is the fact that we have this blending of parties in the House. But here's my question to you. People will say, we need the NDP there to hold the other parties accountable. But when you have progressive NDP voters lending their votes to the Liberals and working class voters turning to the Conservatives, how does the NDP rebrand itself as a distinct party that will hold these parties to account?
Well, first of all, a reminder that 1.2 million Canadians still voted for New Democrats. So they're good, you know, Canadians want New Democrats in Parliament. But we do have to reshape our party going forward. With less resources, less organizational capacity, we have to create a party that seeks power and seeks to represent working people, that we are the answer to people's problems. So when it comes to big issues like tariffs, like economic threats, possible recession, that these voters actually turn to us, New Democrats, to solve those problems for them. So the next party in revision reimagining itself and finding a new leader. And there's lots of good candidates and good names that I hope to see on the ballot for the next leader of the NDP, that we actually have a party that fights for power to fight for people across this country.
I'm curious to know those conversations in the caucus meeting this afternoon or
Yes.
later today when you're talking about exactly these things. First of all, who's going to be the interim leader? Who are we going to see in the House? But bigger picture, who is going to lead this party? Some of those issues we just talked about. How do you rebrand to make yourself distinct from the Liberals and from the Conservatives? Are you looking outside? You know, Jagmeet Singh came in from outside, from provincial politics. Where are you looking? And what are the markers? What are the metrics that you're looking for this time around? Do you need to gain support back in Quebec? What does BC need to look like? What are you putting down as your checklist?
Yeah, for sure. We're definitely looking outside of the party and the current caucus. People like names like possible former Premier, Rachel Notley. People like Mayor Valerie Plante. Former Cabinet Minister Nathan Cullen. These are all possible names that could get on the ballot for the next leader of the NDP. But criteria is clear. A good grasp of of policy, obviously, hopefully bilingual, and obviously someone who has hopefully some name recognition, so they can rebuild the party and do the work that needs to be done before the next election.
If you could say one clear core value of the NDP that is distinct from the Liberals, distinct from the Conservatives, that still holds true for this party, what would it be?
Social democracy. It's got to be that. The idea that we actually have to care for people, that we have to build an economy that is just, that works for all. Those are the key things. And that has a real sense of what are the needs of working people. We need to work to earn back that vote of the working class. Every people who, earn a paycheck. We have to be the party, frankly, that people feel is going to protect their paycheck and protect their family and create the programs and a strong Canada that Canadians want.
Kathleen, really quick, and I'm squeezing out time from this interview, but I want to ask you this, and that is, what are you going to do if voters, NDP voters, who have parked their vote with the Liberals, get used to voting for a party that is in government, and maybe they don't want to throw their support behind the NDP, who might not form government but are there as a balance of power?
I'm clear on this, that people in the last election on Monday hired Mark Carney for one thing, and that is to beat down Donald Trump, frankly, and prevent us from that threat. If he fails to deliver on that promise, certainly those votes will come back to New Democrats. New Democrats liked our ideas. They liked our policies. They even liked Jagmeet Singh. They did that the threat of Pierre Poilievre and the threat of Donald Trump was too much. And frankly, Liberals borrowed those votes, and they will come back.
All right, and we will be right back after a short break. Kathleen Monk, good to have you with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you like that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.